Mhm.
um, because there are downtimes in different seasons. So, sometimes in the market it's up, sometimes it's down. And you got to understand the season that you're in and when that will be.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Yeah. So, Kat, I want to ask you something about the regarding the financial projection because tell us what are the secrets to create an effective financial projection because the projections they sometimes most of the times what you plan that you're gonna do most of the time doesn't actually happen, yeah, and a lot of elements goes in the way. So can you tell us what is the secret to create effective financial projections?
Well, remember when I said building the right team?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to have someone on your team that knows that has a background in finance, that
Mm-hmm.
has a background in building those projections. Because again, you have to do your research. Um, and doing your research for financial projections. So what you're going to do is what I did was I had to think about everything that I needed, right?
Oh.
In the business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you have to write a list.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you write your list on everything you need from equipment, do you need a building? Um, do you need vehicles? It depends on the type of business that you have, what type of technology you need, and you're going to go and you're going to price all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once you do that, and you sit down with your team and the people that actually have a background in finance, then they're going to build a financial projection um, for you and what that looks like. I wish I had I could have shared a sample with you because it's kind of hard to
Oh, don't worry,
explain,
briefly,
but
because at the end of the day, other people are listening in the car, so they won't be able to see. So basically, the
exactly. But understanding the project's objectives, the timeline, and the scope, identifying all of the
Mhm.
revenue streams and the costs associated with whatever that project is, like I was saying. Um, if the project is an extension of a continuation of an existing business or an initiative, then you're going to use the historical data to help forecast the future performance. So reviewing the past income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements all comes into play. So you want to do a sales forecast. So you
Mhm.
predict future sales based on the market analysis,
Mhm.
customer demand, and pricing strategy. So what after that, you're going to apply an appropriate growth rate to the forecast sales. You're going to factor in the
Ah,
season you're
important. The
in.
season is important.
Yeah,
Very good
it's
point.
very important.
Mhm.
um, because there are downtimes in different seasons. So, sometimes in the market it's up, sometimes it's down. And you got to understand the season that you're in and when that will be, and have a plan B. You got to outline how revenue will be generated. In other words, are you going to do it through direct sales? Are you going to do it through subscriptions? Are you going to do it through licensing fees? I had a friend who created an app, and it's called Venue GPS. And so he's doing it by subscriptions, but it was so much that he had to do to get it where it needed to be.
Oh, it's
Um,
hard. The apps are
it's
hard.
very hard.
You
You
need a
have to
million.
estimate the cost.
You
You
need
got
a
to estimate the
million. You need a
cost.
million
Mhm.
dollars.
Right, right.
Yes.
And he had to get a lot of investors. He
Oh,
had to get people
absolutely.
to buy into the vision. And
Oh, yeah.
so These are costs that remain constant regardless of the project output. So in other words, your rent, your salaries, you got to think about your variable costs. These change depending on the scale or the output. In other words, your raw materials, your production costs, your capital expenditures, any one-time large investments that you have to make, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's equipment. You got to think about your operational costs. This is how you do your financial projections. Regular operational expenses, such as like your utilities, your marketing fees, your admin expenses. Then you're going to calculate your profit margin. So you're going to subtract. This is what you do. You subtract your estimated costs from revenues to calculate gross and net profit margins. You're going to determine if the project will be profitable based on those projections. So your cash flow projections are important. Hear me when I say the cash flow projections are important.
100%.
Create a cash
People
flow.
don't take a look at this. People only see turnover. And when
That's
we do
right.
the financial projection, cash flow projections, and profit, this is when what the investor want really to see. Yeah? Here they call it EBITDA,
Yeah.
right?
EBITDA, absolutely. And it's very important to look at that EBITDA. So you're creating a cash flow forecast to ensure the project will have enough liquidity to cover its expenses as they arise. So projects that you do, you have to project both inflow, the revenue, and outflow, the expenses, the investments, the loan repayments. Identify potential cash flow gaps where additional financing, might be required. So, for instance, you create different scenarios. In other words, best case, worst case, and most likely to account for uncertainties
Ah,
that you
wow,
may
that's a
have.
very good tip. So you create 3 scenarios for the financial projections. That's very good.
Yes.
That's a great
Yes.
idea, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
And then
see a
you
lot of financial
assess.
projection with only one case.
Right. But you have to do it with more than one case. What's your
Very
best
good.
case scenario? What's
Very
your
good.
worst case scenario?
Exactly.
What's your most likely? So y'all make sure you write those notes. Best case, worst case, most likely case.
Wow, that's a
You
great tip.
assess it, absolutely. And then you assess how sensitive the projections are to changes in those key assumptions, such as the sales volume, or the cost. And then there's the break even analysis, where you calculate the break even point, which is when the project's total revenues equal total costs, indicating no profit or loss. And this helps in understanding how much revenue is needed to cover fixed and variable costs.
Brilliant.
Don't forget the risk assessment. Hello.
Interesting. And
So
the
you got
KPIs, right? The risk
right.
assessment and the key performance indicator, right? Both things.
Yes.
A lot of people forget this, yeah.
Yeah. You got to identify those potential risks. We have, like you were saying earlier,
Yeah,
we
people don't
have
want to
economic.
put it. People don't want to put it because they are scared that they don't find the funding. But the whole point
Right.
is, if you don't put it, the investor is not gonna give you the money, right?
They're not. They want to know everything.
People don't want to
Everything.
put it. So
Yeah.
tell the entrepreneurs exactly what you're saying. Put everything. That will help you actually, right?
That's right. Absolutely. So you identify the potential risks, the economic downturns, the supply chain issues, the regulatory changes, because it's going to always be changes that could affect the financial projections. Then you're going to factor in contingency plans or reserve funds to mitigate those risks. One of the things that
How
I
about
recently,
unexpected risks like COVID or hurricane? What we do?
yes,
What we
that
do
is.
with this unexpected risk?
So the unexpected risk, that's exactly why you have to factor in the contingency plans to reserve funds to mitigate those risks. You have to always put those funds aside for those risks. So for instance, with our company, when COVID is still peeping its ugly head out, and then you lose employees because they're out sick, and then you also have to continue to try to reach your production. Correct? So if you have funds put aside for those that are sick, they still, because you want your employees to come back. So we have funds aside for emergency COVID. So they don't have to use their sick time. We have emergency funds that will pay for that 5 days of their time while they're out sick. Then we have funds for if we need to hire a temporary employee to take their place until they get better. So it's very important to think about those things ahead of time and have those funds aside, those that's what you call the contingency plan,
So exactly.
Just in case you have unexpected situations to happen.
The whole point to do this financial projection, number one, is for you to have a map where the business is going, but also to keep the investor comfortable that you actually are, like we discussed, Kat, and let's be honest, yeah? The financial projection that we do, they always, nobody has done a business plan or a financial projection that after 5-10 years, they are 100% accurate. Yeah, that doesn't exist. However,
right.
The investor, what they want to see is an entrepreneur that understands risk, how to mitigate risk, contingency plans, and also be open and tell the truth and don't hide anything. Yeah.
Don't hide
you
anything.
As an entrepreneur, you don't hide anything. You put everything on the table. You are
absolutely.
And you're doing exactly what Scott is saying. You're doing exactly what Scott is saying. You write and talk about the risk and how you're gonna mitigate the risk, and you put that in your financial projection as long as you keep performance indicator. Now the investor have a document in front of him, right, that can give them confidence, because the investor, what they really want to see, Kat, is that they have an entrepreneur in front of them. That's what they really want to see. They want to see someone that when times goes bad and when things doesn't work, someone that can repurpose, can have flexibility, have different plans, different ideas. And the issue what we found in there, especially in the tech space, but we found in the startups in general, is that sometimes, most of the time, the investor go and tell them, the founder, look, call me in your next venture. And what they try to tell them is, look, you're brilliant, but you're not an entrepreneur yet. And I only can give you my money if I have an entrepreneur in front of me. That makes sense, Kat?
That makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And you know, they're looking for someone, your projections have to be realistic.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.